Welcome to the Digital Success for Business Growth podcast. This is the number one place for entrepreneurs to learn proven marketing strategies to actually help you grow your business online. My name's Leanne Cohens. I am the Digital Success Coach and the owner of the agency Marketing Lead. And as a marketer, my focus is to actually help you lose the marketing overwhelm. In these podcasts, I will give you tools and strategies to help you springboard your business to success by sharing what I've learned in over 25 years as a marketer and over 30 years as a business owner. And yes, I started very young. Constantly applying what works over the last 10 years of running my digital agency by offering entrepreneurs like yourself business marketing strategies. I believe that marketing is the single most important element when it comes to business success. And that's what this podcast is all about. Helping you grow your business through proven, effective, modern marketing strategies so that you can help more people and make a lot more money doing it. Thank you for joining us at the Digital Success for Business Growth podcast. Today, we are going to discuss what a lot of entrepreneurs, and I have yet to find one who hasn't experienced this, basically how money gets wasted. So again, the whole purpose of this podcast is to help entrepreneurs when it comes to marketing their business. So teaching you tips and teaching you proven strategies that we know work because we've done them in our business. My agency, I've been in business for over 30 years and my agency has been running for 10. We had a 10th birthday in August. So we're not people that have done there's actually one that's being advertised on Facebook at the moment. We haven't done a 4-week digital marketing course that cost us $3. And now we're putting ourselves out as digital marketers, so we've experienced ourselves how much money, and probably more so yourself, Karen, because, I had sporting boys. So if it was, taking them to rep basketball or National Premier League soccer, that's where the money was going. I wasn't going to be paying someone for it. But the money that gets wasted on marketing and coaches learning how to do things that don't actually work. So you could probably elaborate with some of that. So let's talk about how we met.
So we met. What do I want to say here? I wonder if the person's going to listen. So we met through what was supposed to be a high level, what was it called? Like a round table
Mastermind.
Or a group of like wealthy women who were all about sharing their experiences and pulling each other up, and it would create a network for us to join, and we'd be able to use everybody else's experience and resources and everything. And yeah, not quite how we all imagined it. And we all paid going on 5 figures for the privilege of getting really great friendships out of it. Like some of us who were in that course are still really good friends, but waste of money, complete waste of money.
Really? I mean, we did have lots of fun. We got to have helicopter rides and I got to go in a jet, which was fantastic. And we had some really great experiences. But at the time, as business owners, you go into things because for me personally, it was I wanted to take my business to the next level. And we've had some phenomenal relationships out of that, which has been wonderful. But again, as a business owner, you've got finite resources. When you're going to spend money on marketing, or when you're going to spend money on a mastermind or on a coach to actually grow your business, you want to be able to walk away knowing that you have gone to the next level. And I know, like for me personally, that was probably the biggest expense. As I said, single mum, boys, my focus was elsewhere. My business did what it had to do. We paid the bills. The boys got to do what they wanted, through their sporting endeavors. For you, it was a slightly different story. And this wasn't your first foray into spending money on marketing, was it?
It wasn't, no. And also, like where I'm coming from, I have had high-level business coaches before, and that was my expectation too. So having paid a lot of money for several years, about 15 years ago when we had businesses, when somebody styles themselves as a business coach, I expect that they've had successful businesses, and that they can advise me on my business as well as giving me access to all the resources that these other high level women are going to provide. And I didn't get that. And I think that was one of the disappointments for me. But I still see, and I've fallen for it so many times over the year. Oh, here's the secret to your marketing success. This is what you're missing in your marketing. This is what you need to know. Those kind of things, I can tell you right now, don't believe a word they say, because I was convinced there was just this little thing lacking in my knowledge that I needed to know in order to succeed. And I think what I realized out of that last one was somebody said to me, what would be the better use of your time? Going on another course that costs $3,000 or $4,000, or spending that $3,000 or $4,000 on somebody who's spent 10 years in the business and knows what they're doing? And I went, well, that's a pretty good point. Which is when I thought, and I said to you a couple of months ago, I absolutely hate marketing. It's not my gig. And if I don't like doing it, I'm not going to be good at it. So Leanne, here you go. Go do my marketing for me.
And that's the thing. Actually, I saw a post the other day. There was a coach who was, and I loved this. She put out there about dualpreneurs. And I'd never heard the term before. And a lot of people that were commenting hadn't either. And her post was essentially, when did it become such a well-known fact that if you were an entrepreneur and you had a business, but you also had a job at the same time, so you're effectively a dualpreneur, when did that become a bad thing? And I've seen it time and time again where people, for whatever reason, and I suppose going through COVID and the pandemic was a big one where people, lost jobs. But when you're starting a business, and again, you've got these finite resources and you're starting from scratch and you have to make the money or the bills aren't going to be paid, it puts you in a very, very different, that scarcity mindset, really, when it comes to marketing your business and growing. And you can't grow from a scarcity mindset. And I think that's the frustrating thing with a lot of, and I see it with so many marketers, and we'll put it out there that, well, when you come and work with me, you're right, here's the secret sauce. I'm a guru on this, and I've seen it. Classic case in point, someone that I actually taught, who now granted has a number of years under their belt and is now, does have a successful business. But when they first started at the time, I was like, hang on a second, you've been in this for 2 minutes and you're now teaching people. And I get wanting to have a go, and I get the whole idea of wanting to be an entrepreneur. But it's just so frustrating when people put themselves out there as coaches or as experts, and they don't have the backup for it. They don't have the runs on the board. They're not able to guarantee the success. And that's where I find it so frustrating that, like another case in point, I had a client who was charged $20,000 for a website that didn't work. Her emails didn't work. There was the content on the pages, and this is in the medical industry, so you can imagine that the content had to be very on point. And we came on board because she reached out and she said, I've spent all this money and I can't use my website. Nothing works. And the way that they had structured it, she actually wasn't even able to make minor changes herself. So when it comes to, and I'm a really big believer, and I know you do the same thing with Speak Up, is having that understanding of what it is that you're doing. You don't need to do it yourself, but you still need to have an understanding of how it all works. Like you can get into WordPress and you might not like it, but I've just updated this page and it's not working. Can you? But you still have an understanding of how websites work. You have an understanding of how analytics work. So you can have a look at your stats and look at what's working. And especially with the guests that you have on your podcast with, menopause, marriage and motherhood, like you have with your podcast, you'll have somebody on, you look at the stats, and that gives you a better understanding of who the next clients are or who the next guests are to bring on. And it's the same with your social media. If you know, okay, well, these reels are going to work or these posts are going to work, you've got to have an understanding when it comes to your marketing of what is effective?
No, I actually think that's a really good point, because what we're both saying here is don't spend a vast amount of money trying to become the expert in the field. You're better off spending a few $100s learning the basics of something so that you can then understand it enough to know what you're talking about with a team. And it is important to do some things yourself, first of all. But if you don't, like with the marketing stuff that we both, well, I've spent thousands of dollars on, or trying to, there was one person I worked with and they were very, very good, but it was more mindset stuff than anything, which I needed, to be fair. But it was her whole basis is built on you can become an internet millionaire, which, yeah, you can. But it's all hot words. And I would have been better spending a couple of $100s on some WordPress course or some MailChimp course or something, learning how to do things, as opposed to spending all that money doing stuff for a long time that absolutely, it was more about mindset than anything. And I think that's important. You need to know a little bit, is what I'm trying to, in my long-winded way, to say. You need to know a little bit. You don't need to be an expert. I think that's the big thing.
Yeah. And not only that, looking at things and going, well, I can do this. What's the return on my investment going to be? You know, there's a big thing, even with when you're running ads, you know, people talk about the return on your ad spend. You spend 5,000, you get 25,000 back. It's exactly the same as when you're learning and when you're and even when you're paying someone to do your marketing. What's the return on that investment? It's great having engagement, but again, like this client that I spoke to yesterday, how many leads are you getting? How much money are you actually making from what you do? And I think a lot of business owners lose sight of that fact. And that's why I love that whole concept of that dualpreneur, of people who, while you're building your business, you have a little bit of money coming in from a job somewhere that enables you to breathe while you're building your business. So you don't end up like so many business owners that I've seen where they've spent $10, $20, $30,000 and then their resources have run out. And then they're starting. So it's, you know, I know I need to do this for my business, but I don't have the money anymore. And that's the thing that really frustrates me. And that's the main reason why, believe it or not, as an introvert, you know, getting online, and I'd spent an entire year of every single week doing live videos, and freaked me the hell out because it's just not who I am. Even with speaking, you know, I started speaking for the same reason. I think I had about the fourth person that came to me and was telling me about the money that they'd wasted purely because they didn't understand what they were paying for. And that's where it was, okay, this is where we now need to start educating people and teaching people and showing them that doing something as simple as starting a podcast. It does take a little bit of consistency, but you know, so does everything. That if you want to be successful with it, starting a podcast, doing some videos, even, you know, having an understanding of how Google works and your Google business profile and, you know, okay, this is how SEO works. It helps you then when you start paying someone so that you don't end up wasting thousands and then looking back and going, well, that was fun, but what did we get out of it?
Yeah. It's don't need to be an expert in something. You need to know enough to understand it, but you don't need to be an expert. But you just can't be an expert these days. You can't. There's too many things that are involved in running a successful business these days. It's not going to work. It's not going to happen. You need a life.
And you think about it, you know, like you pay an accountant. You don't, a lot of people, I mean, in Australia, you've got, you know, we have online platforms we can use and whatever. But even so, you know, you still got to pay an accountant to do your tax. It's exactly the same thing. You know, you have an understanding of how your books work. You don't rock up to your accountant and give him a box of receipts and say, okay, tell me how much money I've made this year. You have systems and processes in place and you have an understanding, but you still pay an expert to do certain things. And for me, your marketing incorporating your podcasting, and your videos and your SEO and your email marketing and your website, you've got to have an understanding of how it works so that when someone is bullshitting you, you can pick up on it quickly. But you don't need to be an expert, and you don't need to be spending thousands and thousands of dollars to learn how to do that. Really. That's essentially why you've got the podcast academy for business owners to learn how to set up their own podcast without spending, breaking the bank.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah. So you can start your podcast. Basically, you probably won't have to buy anything, and it'll cost you maybe $20 or $30 a month to do it. That's all. It doesn't need to be expensive. It's not a massive outlay, and it doesn't need to be particularly time consuming either. If you're only doing a 5 or 10 minute video, we're doing maybe 15 or 20 minute videos. There's not that much editing that comes into it. And once you've set up, tell you what takes the most time, on a complete aside here, finding your music. Really difficult. There's so much out there.
Fair enough.
I'm making fun of that, but it doesn't need to be difficult, and you just need to know enough to get you going and to understand it. You can't be an expert in everything these days, I don't think.
And that's the thing. At the end of the day, you start a business because you have a passion for something and you want to help people. So ultimately, and that's the reason for this podcast. Ultimately, if we can give you tips and tools to help you to market your business, to show up online, to show up as the expert in what it is that you do, then you can help more people and you make more money doing it. And at the end of the day, ultimately, that's what we're in business for.
Yep.
We'll see you next week.
Next Wednesday.
Same bat time, same bat channel. Thank you for listening to the Digital Success for Business podcast. Make sure you join us each week as we discuss proven marketing strategies to help you grow your business online. And don't forget to jump on and subscribe so you get notified every single time a new podcast episode goes live.